Hey there, ghouls and gals, and welcome back to my channel. If you guys are new here, hi, my name is Hillary, and if you are a returning subscriber, welcome back. So before we get started, I just wanted to let you guys know, I know I'm a little late this week, but I created something cool for you guys, and it is a giveaway. I was waiting for it to arrive, and this is what we are giving away. It is a face mask with the print on it. I don't know if you can see that, but I figured, you know what? It'd be cool if somebody had this, and there's only 3 of them, and I'm gonna give one of these away to one of you lucky people. So if you want to give a like and subscribe, and then comment done down below, you will be entered in a chance to win one of these face masks. And I'll just pick from the group of people. I'll let you know if you won, and then we'll get in contact and I will send it to you. Later on, there might be a chance that I'll do another one, but for right now, we are just going to do the one. So don't forget, subscribe, like, leave a comment, and you will be entered in a chance to win one of these cool face masks. So anyway, tonight we are going to be covering the ghosts of Fox Hollow Farm. Now, for those of you that don't know, Fox Hollow Farm, it was a big thing back in the day because one of the most famous serial killers in the US lived at this house, and he performed bad things there. He lured men there. He would go to local gay bars, lure guys home, and murder them at this house. Later on, he would dispose of the bodies in the woods outside of the house on this huge property, and when he was getting close to getting caught, he fled to Canada, which we don't want you. He fled all the way up to Canada, and then he commit suicide in a forest. He had laid a bunch of birds out around him. He had his arms spread out, and a lot of people think it was a ritual. This man's name was Herb Baumeister. So obviously the house ended up being vacated, and a lot of people were having trouble trying to sell this home because nobody wants to buy a house where a murderer lives. Like, I don't. Obviously, with this house up for sale for a while, people were going to come look at it, and then such a family came to look. Rob and Vicky Graves decided that they wanted to kind of move out. They were in the city and they wanted to move out to the country, so they go and they visit Fox Hollow Farm, and they're there and they're like, oh my god, like, this is a beautiful property, look at all this stuff, it's so large, like, why is this so cheap? And then Rob remembers, I think I've heard this in the news, like, I think I've heard of this house before. So he asked the realtor, did a guy named Herb Baumeister live here? And the realtor reluctantly is like, yes. Not a lot of people want to buy a house that a serial killer lived at, but because it was such a good deal and it was like their dream house, they were like, all right, you know what? And they settled and they decided, yes, we are going to live here. And they purchased it. So this is kind of where the beginning of the paranormal stuff started to happen. Vicky, Rob's wife, was cleaning the pool room, and there was this huge room inside the house, enclosed, that had a pool in it. And that is where Herb did the majority of his murders. He would lure people there saying, hey, like, I have a pool, let's go swimming, and he would strangle them, and that's where they died. So one day, Vicky was vacuuming the pool area because her kids used to track gravel in and out because there was doors and it was muddy. So she's vacuuming, and she keeps noticing that the cord is getting pulled out. Now, she's not touching the cord, she's not pulling hard, but this cord keeps getting yanked out, and her vacuum stops. So she decides, after it happened a couple times and the cord was pretty far away from the plug and she knew she didn't pull it, she was like, let me go check in on this. So she goes to check and she wiggles the cord, puts the cord in and makes sure that it's not moving, and tries to vacuum again, and the cord gets shot out one more time, and it freaked her out. She ended up like leaving the room, but that was one of the big things that happened to her. Her husband, Rob, worked at a car dealership, and he had an employee there, and his name was Joe LeBlanc. Now, Joe was having a lot of trouble getting into work because he lived too far away, and they were like, hey, like, we have a house on the property, you could rent, you can stay, and you can get to work on time. So he decided that was a great idea, and he decided to move in to this place. So he's there, and one of the first nights that he is sleeping in his new apartment. He has this horrible dream that somebody is chasing him, trying to kill him, like a terrible nightmare, to which he starts acting it out. He starts running through his house, and I think he ended up tripping and falling and hit his head, and he woke up in a daze like, what just happened to me? And realized he was having this terrible lucid dream. He's never had dreams like this before, but just started to happen, didn't understand why. I don't think Rob really told anyone about this. He probably just dismissed it because he thought he was just having a nightmare or whatever. One day he was painting the side of his house, or his apartment, and Vicky came over, and Vicky came over just to talk to him, saying, hey, like, the paint looks great, what's up? And she turns her head and she's looking towards the forest that's behind the house. And she sees a man there wearing a red t-shirt. And she sees him walking into the forest, and she's creeped out, and she's like, oh, what is that guy doing there? And she noticed that this guy, like, specifically was wearing this red t-shirt, which will come in a little bit later. They kind of dismissed it, and they thought, it's probably just some horror groupie person that's here because they know about the murders, and we should get used to that because people are going to be coming visiting the house, because obviously all this crazy stuff happened. So she kind of dismissed it as a person, but she had this feeling that it wasn't human. Now things are starting to really amp up for Joe. I feel like the majority of all the paranormal stuff happened to Joe, which is a little bit weird seeing as most of the people were hurt inside the house. However, I believe his house was closer to the woods where they disposed people, and as far as I know, there are still bones there to this day. Like, they obviously couldn't collect all of them because what Herb liked to do was burn the bodies, smash the bones, and kind of just spray them out all over his property. They said that near the gravel, when they first found out that he was murdering people and they found the bodies on his property, they thought there was a bunch of gravel, and it wasn't gravel, it was actually human bones. So anyway, Joe was washing dishes one night, you know, just chilling in his house after a long day of work, and he starts hearing a knocking at the door. And he's like, hey, like, what's up? I'm busy. And then he hears the knocking louder, and he obviously thinks it's like Joe or Vicky, and he goes to open the door, and like mid-knock, he opens the door and nobody's there. He steps outside, he looks around, nobody is outside. So he kind of walks out, turns around, and then goes back into his house, shuts the door, locks it, and he turns towards his bedroom, and he sees a man in his bedroom. And obviously that freaked him out. Like, his dog was kind of reacting to it, and he was like, what the and he goes and he runs into his room, and there's nobody there. So things are getting scary. Like, I mean, if there's a dude in my bedroom, I would pee my pants. I'd pee. There'd be a lot of pee. So I don't know how he managed to maybe not say this to everybody, but he kind of kept this to himself, I believe, until this incident. And Joe was walking his dog. He was outside, just kind of like going up and down the driveway, when he noticed his dog perk up and start going crazy at the woods. And then his dog bolted towards the woods, and he looked and he saw a man in a red shirt. And he's obviously freaking out because he thinks like what is this person doing here, whatever, and he starts chasing his dog because he doesn't want his dog to get hurt. And this man is just turning and walking into the woods. So he finally gets in the woods, catches up to his dog, doesn't see anybody around him, and he turns quickly, and he is face to face with the man in the red shirt. And as far as he knew, he could not see the bottom half, just the red shirt and his face. And he ended up turning around and running back to his apartment for dear life because, like, this isn't happening. This isn't real. What? Like, what? Like, for me, it's so hard to believe that something like that happened, because as much as I believe in ghosts, and I want that feeling, I want to see that undeniable thing, it is so hard for me to be like, yo, you saw a guy with no legs. He was just floating there. Like, you just saw this red face. Now, there was a ton more stories that they had. I'm going to tell, like, the two more relevant ones, and But this went on, like, they felt people touching them, they felt like hands around their neck in the pool area, they were pushed. There's a ton of things, but the last two most relevant ones is, again, Joe in his apartment is just chilling, and he hears knocking. Like, boom, 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 boom. And he's like, what the heck, right? Like, not again, come on. And it's getting louder and louder and louder to the point where he's just like, all right. And he pulls the door open, and the door knocker is like this. Like, it is perpendicular to the door. The door knocker is floating there mid-thing, and then all of a sudden falls right in front of him. And obviously it freaks him out. He shuts the door, he locks it, and he stands back, and he can hear his dog growling, and then he sees the doorknob turning left, right, left, right. And obviously that scared the shit out of him, because why wouldn't it? As the door is going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, he's just standing there, watch it, and then the door flings wide open. There are wood chips flying left and right, and the door is wide open, and he just sits there in shock, like, what? And then bolts out. He decides to leave. He's like, not today, not today, Satan. And he runs, and then he turns around and looks behind him, and a man is coming from inside his apartment and chasing him. And he's freaked out. Like, even right now I got goosebumps, but he's freaked out. He runs to Vicky's and Rob's and tells him all the stuff. Finally, like, thank you for sharing. Couldn't have shared that earlier, but he tells them all this stuff, and they are like, you know, stuff has been happening to us as well. And they really thought that it was the victims of Herb Baumeister that were trying to be known. Later on, they went into the woods and they found a bone there, like a full leg bone that was just laying out there in the woods. So obviously a lot of these people don't, like, would want something said. Like, if you're getting this haunted, there are things that need to be said. Either that, or these poor people are reliving a murder over and over and over, and I can't imagine that. That's just, ugh. And the last one is, again, poor Joe is in his apartment, and I don't know what he's doing. He's just sitting, and he hears the sound of metal scraping. So he goes to look, and in the bottom of his sink, all of his knives from his butcher block are taken out and laid out in his sink. And he's like, yo, I didn't do that. So he decides, you know what, I'm gonna take out my EVP, like my phone, and do a recording and see what happens, see if I can get, like, anything. So he holds his phone there and listens, and the next thing you know, his dog is growling, and he's like, okay. Asks it some questions like, who are you? Like, why are you here? And then turns it off and decides to go check it out. He goes into his computer or whatever, and he starts playing the sound, and the EVP comes back, and it says, like, he did catch something on his recording, and it said, like, when he's asked, who are you? Or it says, the married one. So he does a bunch of research, and he looks at all the victims that Herb, like, all the lives that had taken, and none of them were married. The only one that was married was the killer. The only person that was married in that entire group was Herb Baumeister. So he was like, yo, no, like, why? No! It's one thing being haunted by, like, the people that got murdered like that, like, okay, but the killer? Come on, guy, like, go to hell, go somewhere else, like, leave. Like, you can't just leave these people alone. You've, like, messed with them in life, took their life, and then continue to mess with them in death. Like, not cool. Obviously, it's not the end, because these things are still happening, but Joe is convinced that Herb, like, is still at the house. The leg bone that they found in the woods is still unidentified, like, they don't know whose leg that belongs to, and all this creepy stuff is still happening to this day. It's also said that before Herb moved into this house, I think they found at least 11 people on his property, which there could be so many more. And before that, there was a person around the same time, there was a killer leaving bodies at an I-70, like some sort of route near where he used to live, and they would just leave these bodies, and that person was never found, but they believed that it was Herb, and then it stopped when he moved to Fox Hollow Farm and obviously started dumping the bodies at Fox Hollow Farm. So he could have killed a lot of people, like 11 confirmed on his property right now, could be more. Like, they're still finding bones to this day. Oh, it's messed up. Like, that's messed up, man. So after hearing all this, let me know, what do you think? Do you guys think that Fox Hollow Farm is still haunted by the ghosts of Herb Baumeister and his victims? It's all up to you guys. What do you think? So I want to thank you guys for watching. Feel free to give a like or subscribe down below if you liked my video. And I'll see you guys next time. And before we go, don't forget that you guys could be entered in a chance to win one of these. Just like, subscribe, and leave a comment done when you are finished. And I'll pick one of you soon. Probably in the next 2 videos. We'll see. Alright, thanks guys. Bye.